So, everybody, thanks for joining. Clément is not listening.
No, like always.
Okay. Like in school. Just if you like. So, we can pretend that they're listening to us from the
Yeah.
other stage because they
Yeah,
can
we can
switch
switch
it.
the canal.
So, welcome everybody, especially here on the stage, to this actually last session of the debut of European Rotors 2021. I can't believe we made it, but we are here and we're almost done. So, feedback first. I made one mistake. I put us in concurrence to Lucas Parmesan. It was about to end at 3:30, but yeah, simply my feedback is, okay, I spare that because I want to go to Peter first. As the chairman of the European Helicopter Association, I think you had some time to walk the show. I think you had some time to get impressions. What is your feedback of this first edition, please, Peter?
Unfortunately, you kept me so busy that I did not have sufficient time to really walk the show. So I more or less raced the show. But nevertheless, I made a lot of contacts. I met a lot of people. And if you look around now, it doesn't seem so. But, it was very crowded during the past 2 days until today by noontime. So what can I say? When we started on Tuesday and I saw all these people coming in and I saw this 150 booths, I thought that's a dream. Somebody needs to wake me up and then it's over. But no, it really became reality. So for the first event, the first edition of European Rotors 2021, I can say it was a success. Taking into consideration all the circumstances with the corona pandemic and the increasing numbers during the past weeks, again we were really on the edge to cancel it again, but we did not do so. Having walked the showground, talked to people, and I got only positive feedback. So they were all really. And they were all really enjoying the show, and they said, okay, there were a lot of visitors, more than we expected. I'm not allowed to say more than were allowed to come. And what is more important, it's not only the amount of people who came, but it's also the quality of people who came. So that's what all the exhibitors told me. The quality of people, of visitors who came was very high level. And so they had a lot of interesting talks, and they are really looking forward to the next event in 2022.
Absolutely. David, you are the co-organizer from EASA, so you brought as one of the biggest presents for the wedding, the beautiful bride of the EASA Rotorcraft Symposium. How do you see the show? How was the feedback on the symposium?
I think Peter said it all already. The symposium part was great. I think the feedback we had is that the quality of the presentation, of the interactions, and of the information provided was very high, and it's quite very positive. On the overall, yes, quality of people meeting, it was really the people who were here, whether for the symposium or for the show, were really the people coming for a purpose, not just tourism kind of a visit. And that's at the end of the day what an event like that is targeting, and that's what we want to do. So that's really great. Yeah.
Thanks, David. Andreas, we are sometimes in the rotorcraft branch a little bit complaining that the HAMS is occupying all the attention, and also on the rulemaking, everything that follows HAMS. But it is one of the most important sectors. So you organized the HAMS Day, you were the moderator, and talking to Norsk Luftambulance, I have to say a big thank you again for rescuing some of the slots which have been withdrawn or which fell off. So you touch a lot of topics, actually, also the next generation HAMS aircraft. So can you give us a little bit feedback on how the HAMS conference went?
Yeah, I think the HAMS conference went very well based on the feedback we got. There was a lot of the audience was a high quality audience. So most operators the last 20 years had a tremendous development, right? Got better helicopters with a better performance, capabilities, NVIS, IFR, PBN, integrated crew concepts, training with the simulators, and so on. And also the regulations has developed. The main challenge, I think, for for operators is to how, and this is very important considering that a lot of the countries today, the healthcare systems are being more and more centralized. So it becomes even more important to bring the hospital out to the patient and then bring the patient to the hospital or between the hospital. Road ambulances are just not going to do it efficient enough. And so how can we do this how can we do this with a higher regularity? How can we do it safer and more efficient for the customers? And the customers in this case, it's of course the patients, right? So it needs to be a constant development, not only of the vehicles that we use or the simulators, but also the regulation. And for that reason, I think it was a very good conference where you have the users, the operators, you have the manufacturers and the authority sitting together in workshops and panels, so you get a common understanding, or you get a common picture of what are the challenges. What was discussed quite a lot this time was weather. That's really what makes it difficult for a lot of helicopter operators ambulance helicopters to reach the patient. It's the weather. That's what hits regularity. So flying in a useful IFR infrastructure with approaches, and then of course airspace, and flying in icing conditions. So I think those are the two main challenges, and that was discussed a lot. And I think also in the future, emerging technologies like the tilt rotor or tilt wing or UAVs, they will take part in EMS. They will probably do it better, more efficient, and perhaps cheaper. And I don't feel that it's a threat as a helicopter pilot. If I am not busy delivering blood with a helicopter, I can actually go and pick up a patient. There is not, you don't need to have a helicopter and tie the whole helicopter up if you can use a drone for that matter.
Thanks, Andreas. So, Francois, you were engaged in two major sessions, one in the offshore conference, and the other one was the SAF, the Sustainable Aviation Fuel panel. As a COO, also, of course, of Haley Offshore. What is your feedback from the workshop / the conference you were hosting?
Yeah, thank you, Frank. I think, let me start off by saying that when we started the concept of the show with EASA back in 2017 to try and deliver the show, the concept was to try and deliver some value to our members, to the people that attend, to all the stakeholders in the industry. The intent was not just to have static displays and a nice show, but to actually provide valuable content. If I look now at what we have established, I think we're all very proud of what we've established. To have a co-located EASA event here producing a lot of material, plus the workshops that we had. Okay, I just did two out of the many. They were both long sessions and they provided a lot of material. The SAF one around sustainability is a big question for everybody. And I think the feedback that I got from everybody around that was everybody knows a little bit about it, but not a great deal about it. And it was nice to get all the experts on the stage
to give their presentations and hear exactly how it works, to debunk any myths around it. Is 50-50 good, a blend? Can you put 100%? How is it made? What are the implications around regulation? For those operators that are out there struggling with these decisions on a day-to-day basis, this is what we intended to do, was to provide that value to our constituents so they will come to this show again because they know they get value add for coming here and paying a small fee to join. So I think we can be very proud of that. In the offshore session, we had a host of activities. We had Tim Rolfe, the CEO of Haley Offshore, leading a conversation around safety in the offshore market and some of the initiatives that are going on. And we had a couple of guest speakers talk about marine and search and rescue facilities, the stuff in Germany, the stuff in Spain, the development and the work that's going on RPAS is phenomenal. But for me, what came out of every presentation we did here, and I don't know about in the symposium, what the repetitive message coming from everybody was, despite the tragedy of COVID, and it was tragic, but the good that came out of that was our ability as a community to innovate, right? Our ability as a community to come together and go, you know what, there's not one entity that can do it on its own. We need to come together, right? If we want to be sustainable, if we want to be viable into the future. We've got the Volocopter just behind us here that really highlights, the investment behind a sustainable future for the vertical lift market. So that was a repetitive message coming out of every session that I listened to or every session that I was part of. Everybody said, we can't do it on our own. We need to come together. And so from the offshore session, they were both well attended, and I think we'll look at the numbers afterwards, Peter, from the show statistics. I think we can be very proud of what we've achieved here as the first show. And for all of those people who are watching on the video camera, on this recording afterwards, we want you here next year, please.
Yeah.
Right? We're producing value. The people that attended this year will tell you that, right? And our statistics and data of the surveys afterwards will show you that this show really will deliver in the future. So we do need that attendance because it's all here for you. We really want to be the hub of this. There's more collaborative work to come and there's more collaborative news to come. Peter will share some later with the work that we're doing in the background, but we really need to start collaborating more effectively with other entities out there, and we've got some more information to come on that one.
Thank you. I was shortly shivering whether you're taking my job now. Now, Christian, aerial work is one of the also important branches for the B of aviation, as we like to call it, because it's so versatile. It's supporting the community in so many areas. I mean, we see the ADAC HAMS helicopter just in front of us, and we know, of course, offshore, it's a no-brainer that you can only supply offshore platforms with helicopters. But aerial work is so diverse, there's so many things, but it is sometimes a little bit under the radar, and of course, it needs harmonization. So what were the topics you touched and the feedback you gathered?
Yes, thank you, Frank, for the opportunity to wrap some things up here. I think it's really, there are a couple common themes that are that have evolved during the panel. One is the cross-border issues that we still have. Even though EASA has done, a very good job of explaining what their interpretation is, what we find is that, sometimes it seems that authorities don't hear it. And so we had the example where, they had to rewrite their manuals in order to satisfy an authority, even though in their own home country, the manuals were already approved. And that obviously, is putting significant burden on the operators because they actually just want to do the job, and they will not do the job differently just because they did something different. That's one part. And then another topic is with regards to pilot, task specialist, mechanics, we are already looking into the future and wondering where can we get the new pilots? Who will be willing and interested entering into this industry? What do we have to offer in ways of, and I have to say, work-life balance for all of these different functions in order to attract talent into our own industry, because they will start maybe as pilot and task specialist, but then we hope that they will also grow into management. Because we cannot just look at the pilots and task specialists themselves, but someone has to coordinate and lead them. And that's also something that we need to think about. And we've looked at the task specialist specifically. We had the issue of having a task specialist license, because everybody agreed that this job currently is undervalued, and there is no standardization for the task specialist. And it is such an important job. One company said that actually the pilot, he's just the driver. It's actually the task specialist on the ground who manages the whole operation and tells the pilot what to do. And that, for some companies, might be a paradigm change, but it's a proven concept. And finally, there's this kind of, the elephant in the room, which is also carbon neutrality. We know it's coming, but we don't have, when you look at the power density, how can we actually provide services? How can we lift these loads? We know it's possible with the current turbines, it's possible with the current density energy that we have in the fuel, but we might not be able to change to electric.
Yeah.
So what if the framework tells us we have to go carbon neutral, what are we going to do? What will that mean for our ability to provide services? Are we still able to do these things in the future?
Yeah.
So those are the main topics that we talked about.
Thank you, Christian. Very valuable. You're already touching research. I mean, we have drones here, we have helicopters. Mike, you were organizing 4 sessions plus a 5th online one. Sometimes we hear, helicopter is outdated technology and it's going to be all replaced by drones. But I think the 4 panels which you organized proving the opposite. There is a lot of things to come. There are a lot of things happening. Can we have some inside views what you have discussed over your sessions?
Yeah, so thank you. And I wanted to start by saying, organizing an event under these conditions is hard. I mean, and the vertical flight industry and community is used to doing things that are hard, and doing things that are hard under extraordinary circumstances, and that really fits here today. So, hats off to you, Frank, and to EHA and to EASA for going the hard route. Near my hotel is Kennedy Strasse. So Kennedy said, we choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And a moon landing is an incredible feat. And this industry, as you guys have said, there showed a lot of innovation over the past 2 years during COVID, and a lot of innovation here for this event. So innovation is a key necessity, in our opinion, of vertical flight. So the Vertical Flight Society is a nonprofit professional society that exists to help advance vertical flight, and we partner with other associations, with EHA and HAI. We had a session specifically on the vertical aviation safety team, which is a voluntary effort worldwide, all the associations and manufacturers to help reduce helicopter accidents. And there is jointly we developed a list of key technologies that can help reduce accidents. And some of these are, and many of them exist already, like HTAWs, so terrain avoidance systems, and flying. The technologies that allow us to fly IFR routes, and new technologies and new approvals in the U.S. to fly cheaper aircraft, single-engine aircraft IFR. So we hope that more people will be able to fly IFR now with lower-cost systems and have it become more of a way of life. We also had sessions on rotorcraft research, so the universities and the government labs, DLR in Germany and ONERA in France, and some of the technologies that they're developing. as an example, 20 years ago, they started developing, which is the Blue Edge blade that's now on the H160. So it takes a long time to develop the technology, to prove the technology that it's safe and it has the benefits, in this case, low noise for acceptability. Similarly, we've been working with eVTOL companies since 2013. That is something that's, wasn't possible to even think about that almost 10 years ago. Now 10 years, it's been more than 10 years now since the first electric flights were conducted here in Germany. So we're about halfway maybe through that 20-year point. Maybe, hopefully it'll be only a few more years until the first systems are in the field. They'll continue to get better and better. They're not going to replace a helicopter anytime soon. I'll say 50 years we'll still be flying helicopters. Maybe they'll have different propulsion systems. VFS has started a working group. We're on hydrogen, so hydrogen fuel cells, which do have a lot more energy than even fossil fuels, and are carbon neutral. So there are tremendous technologies that are coming to make things carbon neutral, more efficient, safer. We had a great discussion on advanced rotorcraft. So the next generation civil tilt rotor and the Airbus Racer compound helicopter, faster aircraft, being more productive, and talked about autonomy and fly-by-wire. So fly-by-wire has been flying in the military helicopter field for 20 some years now. Every company has demonstrated the technical accomplishments for fly-by-wire. It has not been approved by a regulator yet for civil applications, but hopefully soon with the Leonardo 609 and the Bell 525, that technology. And we really see that fly-by-wire is a key enabler for safety since 80% of accidents are from human factors. If we can help the pilots with a better controllability of the aircraft, hopefully block out some accidents from that. I got a ride in the 525 Relentless a few weeks ago, and it was really boring. It heart didn't wobble. It just took off, and it was like flying around like an airliner. So not particularly promoting that company, but these technologies that are proven can be approved for safe applications by the regulator. I mean, eVTOL is a great example where the companies such as Volocopter have been flying for 10 years and they have a lot of data. So we're looking forward to doing the hard thing, looking at the technologies and recognizing the revolution that they provide, and hopefully for in the not too distant future have these safety technologies and these better technologies in the hands of vertical flight operators.
Thanks, Mike. Very comprehensive insight view. So we're calling this the lessons learned and cross-sectional panel. Cross-sectional panel, why? Because very often in the helicopter branch, we dive into our mission sectors. Yeah? So the offshore guys say, okay, I go to my conference, I have a look on what's the latest news, but then that's it. And same to the hams and so on. So we have all the experts here of the different branches, and I think we are all agreeing that we have to learn from each other. This is also an intention of European Rotors, because there are some drivers with some stuff in some areas, but it doesn't pave the way into others. So we have to increase on that. Peter, what's your view on that? Is there anything what you can say, okay, I see something is going into another sector. Is there anything cross-sectional wise would you see what we already have not maybe achieved, but what we can work on together?
Yeah, then I would like to start with the new sector who is now coming into the VTOL operation. So with all the vehicles which are going to be in the urban air mobility, with all this unmanned air service systems, there is a lot of money behind this. There's a lot of political pressure behind this. And I would like to learn how this industry made it working, that they are so supported, so strong. Yeah. For some decades, we really missed the support of our politicians in the past to develop the VTOL industry into the future. But there is a lot of support. So I would like to learn how did they do this, and I would like to turn this into more development for our helicopter operation too. And so this is from a financial point of view and from development point of view. But on the other side, if I look to Francois, he's coming from the heli offshore heli offshore and from the offshore business, and they did develop fantastic safety programs, which I would like to see also spread into the other parts of the helicopter operations.
Thanks. David, feedback, lessons learned from the EASA Rotorcraft Symposium. Anything also which may change the safety roadmap, the view on that?
Yes, a lot of interactions overall. We've been through multiple aspects, like small autopilot for light helicopters that could change the game on the safety side, which is a tremendous change compared to what we are used to. Newest generations for safety of some kind of operations. Wind farm, for instance, that also would benefit from that. And you know what? At the end of the day, crossing all these topics that we've been through, one key point was that even some 30 years plus experience person in the rotorcraft industry came to us and said, you know what? I've learned something today. And really, that's amazing because, you know, you may think 30 years down the road, I've done it all, seen it all. No, they came here. They discovered, understood sometime differently, saw different perspective. It was mentioned correctly, operator side, OEM side, regulator side, and at the end of the day, when you blend it all together, you better understand the overall systems. And that is making the link. What I've seen, you know, all these 3 days is a real community which has built up from the last 4 years, I would say, to a mutual understanding. It was not the case, and thanks to this 360 view, everybody now understand each other point of view, put his shoes in the other, and say, okay, now let me think and how we can converge. It was not how we can diverge or compete on some aspects where actually safety is not a competition, it's a must from everybody, you know. And here it's a tremendous change, and I think we need to keep the ball rolling on this side so that everybody is coming in. Also welcoming the newcomers in the game. We've mentioned eVTOLs, but other technologies. You have also gyroplanes here that are displayed, or ultralights. And we have all things to learn from everybody. And some of the technologies that are being showed up here will, in any case, you know, you said yet there is a lot of money on some urban air mobility. We don't know what's going to be the future. Right? It's in the next 5 to 10 years to go. The landscape will change significantly for all kind of operations. HAMS for sure, aerial work maybe in some instances, offshore also, and some other kind of VIP transport or just mass transport, which will be a new market. And some of this technology will enter anyway into all of us. And that's what at the end of the day we need to see. And the next 10 years, we are in transition phase, and we could say we are lucky to live this transition of aviation because it's shaping probably the next 20 to 30 years after. So it's really a high challenge. We must be committed to that. And we also have to take the responsibility out of it and say, okay, we are not going to be it's going to be a safe, efficient, affordable, practical, and pragmatic sometimes approach to the future.
Thanks, David. Again, Mike, I mean, you were running 4 conferences from basic research topics which are fresh up to the eVTOLs developments. What kind of technologies, also maybe on safety upgrade, will pave their way into the next generation aircraft or helicopters or drones?
Sure. So, you know, like I mentioned, you know, I think HTOS and IFR capabilities. One of the things for the eVTOLs is, I mean, they're all fly-by-wire. The multiple redundancy of rotor systems. You know, it still depends on the overall system safety design. I think that the key benefits, I think, of why some of this large sums of money, we calculate around $10 billion with half of that in this, you know, the first half of this year. But it's the very low noise that's capable, and we think it's going to be safer. You know, that remains to be, you know, scientifically and practically proven. But we think that really those 3 attributes of very low noise, it's been said like 100 times quieter than a helicopter, hopefully better safety, and the sustainable no carbon capability. So we think those are from the eVTOL urban air mobility side. We think those are kind of the key technologies. And you know, for the more expensive machines, they have the technology. They have a lot of great technology that's safety related. But for everybody, it's really the technology between the ears that will have the most impact on helicopter safety. Of doing, you know, taking a safety approach, using the safety management systems. Those are really the key capabilities that can be implemented today with existing aircraft.
Thanks. Andreas, I was mentioning in the beginning, HEMS is always a little bit, it's on the forefront of developments, of course, also in safety, because it's about saving lives and not endangering your own one. But is there something which you have discovered over your panel, but also when walking the show, what could be in HEMS from the next time? Maybe is there a HEMS drone? We had seen the regular drone was on presentation. So what will influence from the VTOL segments we are having here on display the HEMS market?
Well, I think there will be. I'm sure the helicopter will always be take a huge role in the EMS, but drones or the tilt rotors or multicopters and so on, they will all find their part in the EMS, their role. A lot of the missions that are done are inter-hospital, long transports from one hospital to another. There are also a lot of short transports within a city, just from one city, part of the city to the other. And the helicopter, it's great, but you know, it's not maybe the most effective tool in that mission, right? So if you could use a drone to transport medical supplies or blood, great. It would free up a helicopter to do what it's best at. Or a multicopter could perhaps move the patient more fast and effective than, or at the same speed, and but a cheaper and with a less noise pollution than a helicopter. So I'm sure that all these technologies will end up in the EMS application somehow. And I don't think that one have to be scared that the use of the helicopter, it's not like you have a pizza and now someone is coming in and taking your slice is getting smaller, right? But I think the pizza is going to be bigger.
Yeah.
So you might have a smaller angle of your slice, but you're still going to get the same amount in a way.
Thank you. Francois, I mean, offshore business is very touchy also on safety, cross-sectional. Is there anything where you say, okay, that might be interested? For instance, we're running a PBN workshop right now. Will PINS procedures maybe get into the offshore business, or are there other things which you have seen over the show where you see, okay, this is something where we can learn from other branches?
Yeah, look, I think for me, what's been the three big takeaways for me since I've been here, if I were to summarize it, is integration, collaboration, and education. So integration in the sense that there are so many new technologies entering the vertical lift market in such a short space of time. There's a lot of money behind it, as Peter said, but they're coming into the same airspaces that we've been operating aircraft 60, 70, 80 years. So integration has got to be key. And sharing lessons learned from one another, like what we are trying to do in Heli-Offshore and the offshore community. We're very fortunate in the sense that we've been able to create a lot of success in developing a data program to actually be data-driven rather than anecdotally driven, and then feed that evidence back to the community. That evidence will then feed, hopefully, into the wider helicopter community. So what do I mean by collaboration? Well, collaboration, this conference is on the back of COP26 in Glasgow. We all know what came out of COP26. We all know we saw Greta Thunberg sitting there in the protest. You remember what they were going? They were saying blah, 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 right? Because they were saying we have to stop talking, we have to act now. And in order to act now, we were presented at the SAF panel by some solutions, short-term solutions, that could help us as an industry take our environmental, social, and governance responsibilities seriously and do something about it as an industry. But the only way we'll do that is through collaboration. What do I mean by education? This morning I had an opportunity to talk to about 30 young adults that were being shown around the thing. So when we started this program, as I said before, we wanted to actually try and educate the younger generation and get that passion back into the vertical lift market. So young kids coming through school and through universities today will study in this area, will come into this area. And I got a great question from one of the children today. A 17-year-old guy says to me, we're talking about automation, we're talking about electric, we're talking about autonomy. He said, is there any point in me becoming a pilot if I will not have a job?
Yeah.
Is there any point in me investing all this money to be a pilot? If there won't be a job, it's going to be automation. I went, what a fantastic question. So to your point earlier, you said the helicopter's going to be around for such a long time. It fills a space that no autonomous or light aircraft can fill at the moment. So there is a niche for all of us. Okay, so I circle back to my original point about integration. So if we can start integrating all of these things, it's going to be better. But there needs to be a single place to do that. And EHA, I'm hoping this conference in collaboration with our other entities like HAI can start having this more integrated, lined-up conversation around a collaborative approach to all of it. So for me, there's lessons learned across the board. What we do in Heli Offshore, we will share it. We make it freely available on our website for other entities. We collaborate closely with the regulator, certainly on data sharing. We work closely with the OEMs. We work with the helicopter operators, and we take a global view on it. So there's a lot of work for us to do. But for me, what's exciting is this is the first EU Rotors. This is the first show, and it's a start to what's coming in the future. So watch this space. For everybody, I'll go back to everybody watching the recording. Next year, we'll have you here. Okay.
In Cologne, from the 8th to the 10th November, actually.
Yeah.
Christian, aerial work, again, I mean, it's somehow we always pretend, okay, there will be a complementary use of drones. There must be some, because flying helicopters is not efficient for everything. So have you seen concepts, have you seen products or projects maybe here at European Rotors where you think they could speed up actually that process?
I want to add one more letter to your three, which is A, anticipation.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Why? Because what we need to do, and this is one of the lessons learned that I have, anticipation means we need to think, how can we combine and integrate? That's what is really important. This is what we can do now. Yeah, we have this gray mass between our ears that allows us to anticipate, build up scenarios. How are the helicopters and the drones are able to work together? How are they complementary? What kind of operational concepts can we build up? Do we have this kind of mixed operator who is actually doing drone and helicopter operations? And how do we operate them? Is it one pilot, or do we have two kinds of pilots? We need to anticipate this. We can see that the technology is nascent. It's actually getting into a bit more mature stage. So now is the time for us to think about this, because it will come, 3-5 years, we'll see these kind of combined operations. What we see at the show is that right now we are still too separate. And when I talk to the operators, they still see that as a competition to what they do. And we need to change this, and really fast. So we need to anticipate.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Christian. Already opening the final round of questions and looking to the watch. Let's speed up a bit, otherwise the security will kick us out, because there are two more things which we have to address, or we can address. So lessons learned, well taken. Also feedback from my side. I really have to say, I think the concept of European Rotors has been understood. We want to be different. We want to be a show where everybody meets each other. And the first, from my point of view, the first message to say we delivered the promise, we made this promise become real, that we meet operators, industry, research, engineers, and the regulator all together, speak frankly with each other, and pave the way into the future. And into the future, from my point of view, I said to many exhibitors, so this European Rotors beside the show floor, it shall always be a white piece of paper which we start painting on while we're doing the next exhibition. Means if I'm getting feedback from exhibitors saying, look, everything fine about the pilots, but I think we should talk about also mission specialists and their duties. And I say, okay, you do that next year. Really? Can I? Yes, why not? It's the platform. This is here to debate it. So, in a nutshell, briefly, Peter, you can be completely honest with us what we shall do for the next edition, because you will be in your camper van enjoying trips and not be, unfortunately, responsible for the next edition. So a personal thank you for being with us for this edition. But tell us, what do we have to do for 2022, briefly?
Can I be honest?
Yes?
Will you still be a friend of mine? No, actually, yeah, Frank, unfortunately you are right. This is the first edition of European Rotors, and unfortunately it's also my last one. But I think we started something. So we have something we can build on now. So, but nevertheless, we have to watch on the lessons learned. So we really started this under very difficult conditions with the pandemic. And as I said before, it was on a risk if we could do it at all. But we managed, and we took the challenge, and we accepted the regulations to have wider aisles and so on. But nevertheless, you know, the industry wanted this event, and so they all came. So we were booked out very fast, and we set up a very good conference and training program. Unfortunately, and that's one of the lessons learned, not all our panels, not all our trainings were visited as we were expecting. So we need to think about what's the reason for this. So maybe it was just the aftermath of the pandemic, so people were still afraid.
Yeah.
But if I look on the number of visitors, and not officially, but we are something about
it's recorded.
it's
So
something about a lot of people.
yes.
So the visitors were there, but so
Yeah.
we need to think about, were the lessons, you know, we set up, the trainings we set up, the themes we set up, were these really the ones the people want to have? So we need to investigate further. We need to talk to our industry. As you said before, what do you want to talk about for next year? So and to redo this training and adapt this training program. Yeah, but beside this one has been a success under the conditions, and we will continue to develop it further. And the next one will be greater. We will have, for sure, we will have more exhibitors, and we will have more participants. And do you want to go the next step, or shall I continue?
I have to ask David.
Yeah.
And then next
Okay.
step. So David, here's a microphone as well. So David, I mean, again, you're the co-organizer. Are there already first ideas and first things you plan for 2022? And is there things we shall improve, or how to proceed?
But definitely, you know, we can always improve, so that's for sure. For first, I must say, it's really great. Everybody did a fantastic job, and also all the circumstances constrained. So that's the first lessons. Mike was saying, yes, we took the hard way, and you know, the rotorcraft community is able to do and to tackle the hard way.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what has been done and delivered, I would say, with a great manner. After, you know, on a couple of stuff, let's say the feedback I had on the booking, you know, it was complicated. So we need to be more simpler, really simpler next time. A bit clearer on the programs also. People say, well, sometimes, you know, it was so up and down, so we need to probably to rethink a bit. Maybe to have more fil rouge, as we say, you know, on some topics to be really there, so that enabling people also to walk the show. Like Peter, you know, I was not able to walk the floor. I mean, it's crazy. Even though I would love to, I will try to do what before they are moving up. But that's this kind of aspects. On the content-wise, at least on the EASA booth, what I've heard a lot is that we've seen a couple of eVTOL. We want to be a bit. The people want to really see more the future, and they recognize the today's. They want to see what the transitions, what the technologies are here on display, also on the conferences, and to have a more forward-looking, because we are all about here anticipation. People need to anticipate, and they need to have some tangible stuff. So, but overall, I must say it's a great success.
So, Mike, this is the message for you. We need you because you're talking a lot about the future. So, about the future, yeah, we have to stay connected. We have to anticipate. We shall not say this is a 3 days event and then we all go home and that's it, and then we come back in 3 days. No, we have to keep that thing spinning. And we started actually when we had to postpone the first live edition. We said there were so many messages already which shall have been brought across. So we started with digital series, we started with webinars. And that paved the way now to the live edition, and there's so much content. And what do we do with the content? We ask Conteo, we ask Matthias Baldinger, because he has something to tell us, because we want to launch European Rotors 365, and Matthias will tell us a little bit about the philosophy.
Yes, welcome also from my side.
Can you hear Matthias?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Very well.
Actually, can we stay here?
Quickly need to change the presentation.
Wie lang brauchst du? 10 Minuten?
25 minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah, welcome also from my side. I'm a little bit very close here. As said, I'm Matthias from Conteo. We're actually the company developing the technology behind the European Rotors show platform and also European Rotors 365. Our technology is used by a lot of different trade shows and very different topics and industries in order to extend the physical event into the digital world. And I'm today here to quickly present you the solution. And I would like to start with a question. And the question is, what is actually the goal of everything we're doing here? And the answer is this one. It's connecting the right people. And the most important element to connect the right people is the show that is actually happening right now here in Cologne. For me as an event person, that's the big takeaway of the pandemic. We do need physical trade shows and we need to meet in person. It's not going to be replaced by anything virtual. However, we do need to add certain digital elements to these physical trade shows. And the reason why we need to do it is because of you guys, and because of me, and because of all of us. It is because we changed our behavior. Today's behavior of visitors is best described as online, offline, online. And instead of talking about this slide, I made up a fictional visitor, that's John Doe. He's working as a helicopter operator and he's interested in topics like safety, aerial work, and he is interested in new developments in vertical flight. So if you think about it, John Doe will not just randomly show up here in Cologne. No, he first will prepare. So his first touch point with this show will be online before he even comes here, because he wants to figure out what is interesting here on display. In order to enable him to really prepare, we launched the European Rotors show platform. And on this show platform, he will actually find for the topics that are addressed in the show, topic pages. So for instance, on safety, he sees like, there is 35 posts of stuff the exhibitors are going to show on their booth. There's 23 events happening during these 3 days all around safety. What he can do when he registers and buys his ticket, he can follow the topics he's interested in, and the platform will actually create recommendations for him based on his interests, the behavior of himself, and the behavior of all the other visitors that used the platform before. And like this, we hope we can show him what is really interesting to him, so that he then plans his visit here. So he really bookmarks the stuff and he shows up at exhibitors and says like, I've seen you presenting this and this new product. Can I discuss about it? Can I learn more about it? That's the online part before. Then obviously, as I said, we don't want to replace the show in any way. We actually want to get more people here with the digital extension, and we want that they here connect with the right people. And then tonight, or let's say pretty soon after this panel here, John Doe is going to go home. And he's not going to leave with like a huge pile of like brochures and catalogs anymore as he would have done a couple of years back, because he's used that he can get this information online. He's used that he can stay up to date 365 days a year. And that's exactly the goal of European Rotors 365, to follow John Doe until we meet the next time here in Cologne. So what this platform will do, he has exactly the same interest entered there as he has on the event platform, and it creates a content platform that brings together all the content from the industry and creates a personalized news feed for him based on his interests and his behavior. It will send him like his personal news from European Rotors 365 that is going to kind of aggregate the most interesting content for him and send him via email, and it will also automatically share it on social media. So, final question, what is actually the content that's going to be on this platform? The first part that we will put on this platform is all the content of the show. So these hundreds of posts that the exhibitors have created before the show, these hundreds of videos that have been recorded here, they're all going to be published on the platform. And not just of European Rotors 2021. We will then add European Rotors 2022, 23. And so we're going to create kind of a timeline of the industry, of the innovations that are happening over time. And we're going to have a really powerful search that people can actually search through all this content. The second thing that's going to be added, like the exhibitors, they're not just going to show innovations here. They started to create content year-round on their YouTube channel, their newsletter, their blogs, and so on. They can actually book a package for European Rotors 365, and we will automatically take their own content and publish it for them on the platform. So we will aggregate all the stuff that all the exhibitors are doing on the platform. Then as said, we're going to have industry content. So European Rotors is producing digital series. They're all going to be published there throughout the year. We have content of associations. We can like look at how we can actually integrate it. And we're going to have events in between. It's not just a big event here, like it's exhibitors that do their own event, it's going to be webinars, and we're all going to publish it there. So you see, what we're going to create with this is a place online where all the industry content is coming together in one place. Exactly the same way as all the industry is coming together here in Cologne. That's basically the concept. It's going to start pretty much with the end of European Rotors 2021, so in a couple of minutes. And one last remark, so if you're an exhibitor and you're watching this or you're listening right now and you think, oh, I really want to have my content also automatically published there, then get in contact with the show team and they can show you all the possibilities to do so. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you. Yeah, it's a great pleasure, really, a great concept. You supported us really, really good for the virtual event. Feedback I gathered, we shall make it a little bit more easier to look and feel. And I have also the request, I don't know whether you get it, B2B, the guys want pre-booking. They want their agenda online that you can book your 10-minute slot, so we can work on that. But it's all about cooperation. It's all about staying connected, not missing anything, and really looking at globally. And I think we started European Rotors not only because the show finally went off, but we had a great message. And the message is that we are now working together with HAI, with the most important helicopter organization globally. And it's such a pleasure, Jim, that you have been with us for the full 3 days, being here, supporting us, even before the show with your team, setting that up. And it's a great pleasure now to welcome here on stage, because I'd like to say again, we have to make the cooperation, and Peter, just together with Jim, talk about that shortly.
Yes. So Frank, you took my words. What shall I say? So Jim is joining now the stage. Jim, thank you very much. You know, we made our announcement at the beginning of this show, and we want to use this opportunity now at the end of the show to announce, or let's say to talk a little bit about it, or I would like to ask you to talk little bit about it from your view, why we did it, and what is our target now for the future.
Oh, thank you, Peter. It's an absolute pleasure to be part of this group. I know that best practices, as Frank talked about the show, and then all the other stuff that we talked about here, from HEMS to the research to the working with the regulator, to the aerial work to the offshore. I mean, the helicopter and the rotorcraft community has so many missions out there. And everybody understands that the cooperation and coordination that occur to do any of those missions is important. And so as we have associations like the European Helicopter Association that has the tough job of making sure, how do they represent industry to EASA, and then the great work that goes on there with that cooperation as the Helicopter Association International certainly feels that we want to be part of that industry that's working well with the regulator, and anything we can do to better that. And that's kind of what we did here. And we wanted to make sure that however we can help with the running of the show, with the coordination with the members and the members' benefits that we can bring, just by again working together well, establishing great communications, and learning from everyone on the stage and learning from each other.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's that's the content of our collaboration agreement. We already started to work together on the IPP and in the VAST, in the Vertical Aviation Safety Team, and we are going to continue this, and we are going to intensify this. And I would like to take this opportunity now also to thank you and your team for your support to set up this event here in Europe. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, most welcome. And I look forward to continuing to work together, and we look forward to coming back to Cologne next year, and certainly would love to see other, a couple months from now in March in Dallas, we'll hopefully see a lot of folks as well.
Exactly. So the next event is the big event in Dallas. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's the thing. For sure, we're all going to be there. It's done. It's over. Thank you, everybody, for being. I think we can have a beer now. At least I owe David one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.